Hello, this is Ed Tyson from MMA Collector. Every week I will bring in a new piece of memorabilia from my personal collection and even bring in a few collector friends with some of theirs. Our goal is to raise awareness of MMA memorabilia collecting and discuss the historical people and fights that made this sport what it is today. Join me now while we take a stroll down memorabilia lane. Welcome back to another episode of MMA Collector. Today we're going to take a look at the king of the web brawlers, Kimbo Slice.
All right.
Kimbo in some professional boxing matches, MMA, some exhibitions. He had a pretty decent career.
Yeah, he's one of the first like internet influencers. I don't know exactly what the term is, but he was an internet star before he was an MMA star. And it came from, the displaying of his fights in backyards and things like that. And he became, that created a larger than life persona for him. And to his credit, you know, he was learning the MMA game as it went along, and there were many things he did right. I do think it was a great kind of quick career, and he took good advantage of it. And I hope he left money in his legacy.
Yeah, seems like he started out. He played college football, if I remember correctly. I think he even had a tryout with the Miami Dolphins prior to his fighting career. He even kind of brought in the likes of guys like Jorge Masvidal into those backyard brawls as well.
Yep, and you can tell just by looking at him, he's athletic. He was an athlete, and I believe he's cousins with R.I.P. Ferguson, who was an Olympic judoka for the United States. So he came from an athletic family, you can say. But I think he found, the Miami scene and a little street fighting and things like that suited him. And I think he was doing fine. It seemed like, MMA kind of called him out. And he wasn't calling anyone out. He just said, okay, I'll go and fight. You're going to pay me. I'll take your money and I'll fight anybody. And win or lose, I think he backed that up. And I don't really recall him saying, I'm going to kill this guy or, I want to fight this guy or anything like that. He'd just call him up, put a man in front of him, and he'll go. And he had a good professional nature that adapted well to the big game. He made some good money in those televised fights.
He did. I see, on his record, he went 7-0 in professional boxing. And then in MMA, he was 5-2-1. He had one no contest. I believe it was something to do with that Dada 5,000 fight or something. And I think he tested positive for an illegal substance, I think.
Yeah, that's at the very end of his career. And Dada 5,000 is a questionable opponent, but very few of the other guys he fought actually were. That's one of those things where, my hat's off to Kimbo. And he's got a lot of nice stuff in terms of, I think ESPN magazine, Tap Out magazine, he made appearances, on the cover, on the posters. He's a poster boy. And, Tap Out actually put out a line of clothing dedicated to him, the football style clothing and things like that. So we've got, quite a little legacy and impact that he made in the MMA world.
Yeah. A couple notable wins I'd like to just mention. He had beat Ken Shamrock in the Elite XC. He beat Tank Abbott also in Elite XC. He beat Houston Alexander in the tough finale. So he has a couple decent wins in his background there, against professional fighters.
Yeah, and this Ray Mercer Kimbo fight, this is an exhibition, but Ray Mercer is an Olympic gold medalist. Ray Mercer knocked out Tim Sylvia in an MMA fight. So Ray Mercer was no joke. If he came for your head, he's someone you had to be careful for. And also, you got to keep in mind, an Olympic gold medalist, Ray Mercer spent way more gym time and preparation time for boxing than Kimbo has. Just, more training time, more dedication to the martial art. Kimbo had a little bit more of a, street upbringing, street cred, But Ray was a legitimate gold medalist, and he took that fight, his first exhibition, and won it. So more power to him.
Yeah, not the nicest guy to meet in the ring either.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And I believe we can close with you recently shared some time with Troy Wall, who was the referee for one of Kimbo's losses, and it was an interesting exchange in there. Why don't you share it with us, Ed?
It was an interesting exchange. It was great to meet the legendary referee Troy Waugh. We visited him near Miami last week. Got a chance to sit down with him and have some pretty cool conversations. Well, one of the fights that he reffed was that Kimbo Slice and Petroselli. I can't remember Seth Petroselli, and Kimbo got pretty much knocked out. And when he kind of came to, he grabbed Troy and started wrestling with Troy a little bit, thinking that was Seth still. Well, when he kind of realized that he had the ref instead of his opponent, he had asked Troy, kind of what happened. Troy said he got knocked out. And after he told that to Kimbo, Kimbo asked him, now what? Like, I'm not sure what he meant. Like, now what with my career? Or now what do I do tonight? Is this fight over? It was just kind of an interesting exchange. And I'm going to send a picture of that that maybe we can include in this episode of that. But, it was really, he really has some good, interesting stories through the years.
Yeah, and he reffed a couple of Kimbo's fights, and he definitely, Troy added to the episode here for Kimbo. We're trying to remember both men at this point. But Kimbo is the subject here. A lot of memorabilia they'll be flashing for you here at the MMA Collector. Rest in peace, Kimbo Slice, and respect. I think to fully understand the story of Kimbo, you have to understand one fact. Kimbo Slice needed the sport of MMA a lot less than the sport of MMA needed Kimbo Slice. He did his thing on the internet, and granted, he was tough. And when Kimbo entered the pro fight game, he took it very seriously. First training with Marcos and David Avalon in Florida, before progressing to ATT and Mike Brown. He never called out anybody, but the promoters sure called him. So he learned the pro game late in the life of an athlete, but his professional conduct is one of the things that stand out about him. Kimbo probably deserved better from the sport of MMA, and if he was still here, he still has the makings of a YouTube star. Hey, those guys make money. Next episode, we stay right here in Miami as we look at Colby Covington's fight-worn gloves. Take a moment to like and share, and subscribe to the MMA Collector on YouTube and join our collector community.